I want to do an experiment with you guys today. I want to test your smartphone knowledge. You got it? I would like, I'm not a betting man, but I would say that I can 100% sure wager with anyone in this room that Shannon does not got this. He says he does, but he doesn't know what I'm going to say. You ready? Okay. What I want you to do is open your Facebook app. Shannon's out. He doesn't have a Facebook account. All right, how many of you are with me? I'm going to do this live, so. How many are with you? Okay. 3 of you are participating. Okay. Okay. Or Facebook, or... okay. Here's what I want you to do. In the upper right-hand corner of your app, it says check in. I see several of you grabbing your glasses and trying to figure this out. You're in? You ready? Okay, push check in. And if you're like me, the number 1 space where it says check in is Zephyr Hills Wesleyan Church. So click that. And it's going to come up and you're making a post now. You with me still? Okay. In the middle, on the left-hand side, there's a little camera. You see that? You see that? Help your neighbor. If they haven't figured it out, help your neighbor. Click that picture. And then there's going to be a spot there that looks like a little camera in your pictures. Click that. Okay, now you're taking a selfie. Okay? So, help me out here. Shannon's getting one just in case. Excellent. Okay, now you're going to use that picture. Are you still following me? Just use the picture. Trust me on this. Use the picture. Okay, now where it says, say something about this picture, I want each of you to say the exact same thing. Love my church. Now, I'm doing this live with you, so this is a long introduction to a short message. Is everybody ready? The 4 of you with me? Those of you that are shaking your head in the back have no idea what I'm doing yet. I'll explain it all, I promise. It'll all make sense soon. All right, if you make an error, don't worry about it. We'll just skim right past that. The important thing is you've checked into Zephyr Hills Wesleyan Church. Your caption says, love my church. Shannon's got to take another one. He didn't even follow the simple instructions. You get him in the back waving at you? All right, you ready? In the upper right-hand corner it says post. Hit post. Now later on today, when you get a chance to go on Facebook, what you'll see is every one of us that participated with this little drill, you just made your Facebook post, A, that you're here, B, that you love your church, and C, how many spaces are available for other people to come. You just invited all of your friends to come to church. Ian thinks that's hilarious, apparently. The pictures? Okay, so Ian's already looking at the pictures. So let's skim past that. And so this week's key belief that we're talking about, and we're picking up where we left off with the Believe series of messages. This is message number 8 in the series. And the last time we spoke about this was a couple weeks before Easter, and we talked about humanity. I had to think about it. It's been so long since we talked about the Believe series. Now, at first it may seem a little bit confusing why we would talk about compassion. Compassion seems as though It's something that we do or something that we are, not a spiritual belief. It sounds much more like the fruit of kindness or goodness. But actually the action, the belief of compassion fuels the fruits of the Spirit being used. Thought I missed something down there. So we'll jump right into who is my neighbor. Because the Bible tells us that we should be compassionate towards our neighbor. And maybe you'll remember the story here in Luke chapter 10. If not, I'll read it to you here real quickly. One day, an expert in religious law stood up to test Jesus by asking him this question: "Teacher, what should I do to inherit eternal life?" And Jesus replied, "What does the law of Moses say? How do you read it?" The man answered, "You must love the Lord your God with all of your heart, all of your soul, all of your strength, and all of your mind. And love your neighbor as yourself." "Right," Jesus told him. "Do this and you will live." The man wanted to justify his actions, so he asked Jesus, "And who is my neighbor?" Now, this guy wanted to know who his neighbor was. And long before Mr. Rogers was inviting people into his neighborhood, this guy was asking the question, who is my neighbor? But he's asking a totally different question. He's not really asking who is my neighbor. What he's really asking is, who do I have to allow to be my neighbor? Who can I get away with treating nicely, and who can I have disdain for? What he's really asking, who can I ignore? Who do I not have to love the way I love Jesus? See, this guy was a professor of the law. He was a lawyer. He defended people in court. He brought about justice to people. So he wasn't arguing from the point of lack of knowledge. When asked the question, what does Moses' law says? He immediately says, love God with all that you have. He knew the law. What he questioned was, do I have to love everyone? He wanted an excuse to not show compassion. I'm pretty sure that this man wasn't looking to justify why he loved somebody, but rather why he didn't love somebody. You see, what he was really doing, in my opinion, this is me interpreting the story. I believe what he's really doing is saying, there's this group of people in my community that are different than me, that I don't want to have any part of. I don't want to give any of my resources to, and I certainly don't want to be close to them. What he's really saying is, I want to be justified in my actions of ignoring my community. I want a reason to not show compassion. In a sense, he's looking to have his law-breaking justified by Jesus' answer. In fact, the large majority of Jews were looking to justify why they didn't have to pay attention to anybody but the wealthy, the religious, the esteemed Jews. You know, Pastor Shannon alluded to the story that Pastor Rebecca told in the first service today, and I intended to use that story again, and I guess I won't. But I'm just teasing you, Shannon. The story never really gets old here. Compassion should never fail. See why the Samaritan's not trying to decide if it's okay to help this man on the side of the road. He just gets into the action part of compassion. And it's very tempting for us to throw money at a problem. And money is often a solution to people's issues. But more often than not, money is not the solution that people are looking for when it comes to compassion. Sometimes it's very simple acts of kindness. The Samaritan, I think this mic is dying. Thank you, Ian. Where he chose to have compassion, he picked this man up who was struggling on the ground, clinging to life. And he paused. He took time out of his day. He picked this man up and he carried him to where he could receive what he needed, rest and rehabilitation. But he didn't stop there. He didn't just dump this guy off at the hospital. Thank you. Instead, he told the keeper, I have to leave. Take care of this man. Here's some money. If his expenses are more than I've left you with, when I come back, I'll reimburse you. Now, the Samaritan has taken his time, his effort, and his money to have compassion on this man on the side of the road. To me, this sounds like what we're talking about here in Psalms. Psalms 82, verses 1 through 4 says, "Give justice to the poor and the orphan. Uphold the rights of the oppressed and the destitute. Rescue the poor and the helpless. Deliver them from the grasp of evil people." The men that were traveling past this man on the side of the road, they had plenty of reasons, what I might call excuses, why they couldn't help. And many times the people of the church, we have plenty of reasons and excuses why we can't help the person on the side of the road. And sometimes they're valid, but often they're not. We're called to have compassion. We believe that compassion is something that's ordered by Jesus, to have compassion on our fellow man. When the innkeeper hands these coins and says, "Take care of this man," he's saying, if you run out of whatever is needed, I will provide it. Have you ever tried that with someone? To say, I'm going to meet your needs, and if your needs exceed this, I'm going to do more. Now, typically, we reserve those kind of conversations for family members. We're willing to step that far out for our family. Maybe a good friend. But what about for someone you don't know? What about for someone you have never met? What about for someone you hope will someday spend eternity in heaven? Would you be willing to sacrifice that much to say, I'm here. I'm willing to do whatever it takes. Are you willing to show mercy and compassion? Notice that when Jesus tells this story, it's about a journey. A journey. We're all on a journey through life, and we'll be passing many people as we go along this journey. And here's the tricky part. Many people will pass us in the journey. And where we hope for compassion when people pass us by, as a general rule, we lack that compassion as we pass people by. Now, when I was a younger man, and I don't say this because I'm proud of it, I just want you to understand how this goes. When I first got my driver's license, I thought it was fun when it was raining, to hit these big puddles and see how big the waves would get off the tires. And I would like to tell you that for the most part, I've grown out of that. But still at times, I like to, maybe hit a puddle or two and see how far the water will spray. Well, when I first got my license, I really enjoyed playing this game. And if I saw somebody walking on the sidewalk or riding their bike, and they were even remotely close to one of these puddles on the street, see, some of you are laughing. You already know where this is going. I'd like to see if I could hit that puddle and make the spray go to the sidewalk where they might be riding their bike or walking. And I thought this was a fun thing to do until I was riding my motorcycle one day. And a UPS truck riding beside me in the next lane hit a puddle. And it shot what had to be 10,000 gallons of water into my face and all over me at a high rate of speed. Now, I still like to see that puddle spray, but I don't try to hit people anymore. See, compassion has a way of doing that to you. Where I wish that FedEx guy had swerved around, UPS, I don't remember what it was. It was a delivery truck. Let's get that story straight. I don't want to tell a lie here. Where I wish that guy had swerved around that puddle, now I became the guy swerving around puddles. Showing this simple act of compassion, of not hitting someone with water. Now that may sound like a simple or easy way to show compassion. You know what? I'm going to change this battery. Throw a battery to me. That seems to work now. This is what we believe about our natural development. See, I believe that the God of the Bible is the one true God and that He created everything. You'd agree with me on that, right? I'm going to push you a little bit. I believe that this God is involved in and cares about my daily life. Yeah? I believe that this God wants to have a relationship with me through His Son, Jesus Christ. All right, you're still shaking your heads. I believe that because of this relationship with Jesus, I am significant, but only as a child of God. I believe that God not only loves me, but everyone, and wants to have a relationship with every single person. We can agree on that. So here's where it comes into actual practice. If you believe those things, you can't get away from these compassion characteristics. This is, first of all, compassion is based on need. We all have a need for compassion. These need, not worth. See, I'm not worthy of compassion. Fact is, neither are you. And I don't say that to be offensive, but we're all worth it. In the long run, God cares so much about each and every one of us that it makes us worthy of compassion. Jesus wouldn't have stayed on that cross if we weren't worthy of compassion. Yeah, I'm skipping past all my notes here. Here we go. Passion is an emotional reaction, not a logical reaction. You know, when we served the homeless in Orlando, there was many times where I looked at people and I knew that I shouldn't be helping them in my mind. But my heart couldn't help but help them. Compassion is an emotional decision, not a logical decision. I believe now, after years in homeless ministry, I believe that compassion is our emotional decision to partner with Jesus. And what happens after we have compassion for someone is none of our business. That's between them and God. It no longer is my issue. The Samaritan felt compassion even though there was no reason to logically pick up this man on the side of the road. He was faced with this dilemma, whether it was logical to pick this man up or right. And he showed compassion and he picked the man up. You know, you have to find peace with this problem between the logic and the emotion. When you realize that compassion is not a logical decision, it changes everything. It's not logical to give someone money. It's not. But sometimes that's what's needed. And it makes good sense in the heart. And so you do it. And whatever happens from that point on, it's God's business. It's not yours. You know, I have friends that do compassion ministry in Haiti. And it's a gut-wrenching work in Haiti. It really is, and I don't even like saying these words, it's below third world country. And they go in and they give people things that they know that they need, but that they don't have no way to use it properly. When they do this work, they're not doing it from a logic standpoint. They're doing it from an emotional standpoint. That someone who needs compassion would receive it. Compassion does something. You know, the Samaritan is a great example of this. That while he should have, could have, and would have passed by, he felt compassion and had to do something. He couldn't just walk past. The Samaritan saw a need and had a gut feeling that he should do something. And that's the big difference between sympathy and compassion. Sympathy says, oh, that poor person. Somebody should help them. Compassion gets up and does something. I would go so far as to risk offending the majority of you and say the Samaritan got off his donkey and did something. I'll let you use the King James version of that story. Nobody got the joke. Two people got the joke. Okay. Now I feel like I'm auctioning this joke off. It's a joke grenade. It takes about 8 or 10 seconds before it explodes into the congregation. He doesn't pass by. He gets off his donkey and he does something. But I don't want to forget that the Samaritan is moving towards someone who, if he's conscious, he might attack. Someone who, no doubt, would not have done the same for him if it had been a different situation. And yet he still had compassion. He still got off his donkey, and he still did something. The Samaritan did 6 different things. He went over to him. He soothed his wounds. He bandaged his wounds. He put him on his donkey. He took him to the inn, and he took care of him. In every sense of the word, he demonstrated compassion as he responded in a practical, timely, and unselfish way to the man in need. What we find is that compassion cost something every time. It cost your time, it cost your energy, it cost your finances, and it's always worth it. Compassion cost something. He didn't do this to get a tax deduction. He didn't do it to get anything in return. He didn't do it to be recognized among the leaders of his community. He did it because he had compassion to do the right thing. Jesus follows up this story of the Good Samaritan, and he closes it with, "Now go and do." Go and have compassion in the same way. It's not, the Good Samaritan story is not just a nice story that we like to tell. It's a call to action. Jesus is saying to the religious expert, knowing what is right is nowhere near enough. You must do something. You have to get off your donkey and do something, or compassion has zero value. You have to live what you know, or it's worthless. As the band comes, I just want to follow and say that I serve you because Christ calls me. I'm going to love you even when you don't deserve it. My hope is that you would also love me even when I don't deserve it. You know, everybody wants to be loved. You can't do anything to make people love you. But you can do something to love other people. That's within your control. To love others as Christ loved you.